Hello and welcome to what I hope will be one of the best Tier 7 games you see today. The user is KernOW Chris, playing on the map Trident, and his build is on screen for those of you wondering. As for Ashitaka, it's quite an amazing boat in terms of performance, but usually in reviews it doesn't get the best name, yet after playing it quite a lot, I'd have to disagree, as would Chris after sending this game. To give you an insight into where this game goes, here's a screenshot of what he submitted before, prompting us to go into a division together, and this game he does far, far better. Now, we're about a minute away from the game really heating up, timestamp on screen if you just wanted to skip ahead, but whilst Chris moves into position, I'd love to take this moment to thank all of you for hitting 1,000 subscribers, which is a pretty massive milestone for the channel, although that was 6 months ago. To address the large trunked mammal in the room, a reference to my enormous penis, the elephant in the room is I simply vanished for half a year with zero explanation. To keep things brief, the company I worked for shut down, and all of a sudden, no money. At the time, the channel had earned about 50 Great British pence, and so the channel, which is mainly a passion project anyway, did have to sit out for a while whilst I figured things out. Thankfully, I've since founded a company, and I'm surprised by the fact that it's growing quite nicely, and recently I've also started having more free time again, so I can start investing into making videos, hence the amazing game you're about to watch unfold. And with that in mind, please welcome paid actor number 1. Here we have got the enemy Nagato, who I assume probably thought they were still in island cover because they saw Chris was here long before they pushed out, but that mistake has cost them dearly with a triple citadel and a loss of 43,000 HP. Now, of course, this early into the game, losing this HP that fast is definitely going to be a shock to the system, because it appears they have now lost the ability to use their brain, since instead of going forward and turning right to regain some HP, they've instead decided to opt for the sitting completely still method, which, well, you're about to find out how that goes for the Nagato, as you can see Chris's shells are coming in to deal another devastating 19,000 damage blow with another citadel, leaving them on 3,400 HP. Now, with the realization that this Nagato is no longer going to be playing in this game, they do retaliate and do a pretty decent 10,000 damage salvo there, which is easily healed, but that is no matter because Chris is about to shoot again. Now, you may also notice that T22, he is going to take the opportunity to do the most noble and selfless thing a World of Warships player can do, and that is to needlessly kill themselves whilst trying to steal the kill. As you can see, they have for some reason just gone around, pushed into 4 enemy ships at very close range, and provided nothing for the team. Now, as the title of this video may suggest, The Last Stand, it means that things will probably have to get worse before they can get better, and you can already see that is the case. You'll have probably just noticed in the kill feed that I just died since we were in a division together, and we already have a pretty substantial difference in terms of ships. So we have lost 5, the enemies have lost 2, and I'll just let you know now, things do get a lot worse before they get better. But before that, I would like to divert your attention to the Krasny Krem over here, and at the moment they are fairly far away, but they are turning broadside to the Ashitaka, and I'm assuming did not learn from that Nagato's mistakes, because Chris unloads a full salvo towards the Krispy Kreme, and now they are definitely crispy after taking 2 citadels and blowing up into smithereens. Now that confirms his second kill, manages to get up to 86,000 damage already, which is very good. I mean, just at tier 7, if I was in a ship, I'd just be generally happy with that anyway if it was a mild game, but we're only part way through. Now, at the same time, Chris is making the smart decision here, because behind him he has got the Visby and the Kamikaze R, which isn't really something that you want to be pushing into, and it's kind of exactly what I did when I pushed into a Mars and died, and from torpedo bombers. So Chris is going away because you do not want to get caught out, especially by a Kamikaze. Now at the same time, we are losing even more ships, and Chris is heading over to what I assume he thought at the time was more teammates, but if you take a quick look at the map, you can see the Normandy and the Kamikaze are running quite far away, and then there is nothing behind them, meaning Chris is now slowly pushing himself into effectively what is going to be a very difficult situation. Now at the same time, you can also see that the enemy Ryujo is around and Chris's anti-air is going off, but the one thing with the anti-air on Ashitaka is that is one of the weak points to the ship. So it is very fast, it's got a very good top speed, it's got a load of guns, it's just generally a very nice ship. But the one issue is it has a very poor anti-air suite, and that is something that you're going to see throughout the game for the next few minutes as well. Now at this point the Normandy is quite far behind, and Chris starts to divert his attention away because now he's just realised, oh, hold on, okay, I mean he unfortunately just missed the go-kart over there, but now you've got a King George, an Aoba, as well as a hidden Mars which you are sailing straight towards. The Aoba does have torpedoes, as does the Mars, meaning this is going to be very scary territory for a battleship, so he needs to get rid of this Aoba quickly, which he's already positioning his guns to take the final blow onto the Aoba, or at least you'd think, because that's a very bold move of an Aoba. However, as you can see, 7 O penetrations. Mind you, that was still 8,000 damage, which is very, very nice. It's a very high amount of damage, and there are the torpedoes from the Mars, and also at the same time, here are the torpedoes from the carrier as well, which definitely played a lot better than our carrier did, but that will change in a way shortly. But at the same time, with those torpedoes which look like they've come from the Aoba, that means Chris is relatively safe for the next few moments, well, apart from air attack. But now his guns have reloaded, the Aoba's on 3000 HP, there is not much he can do, so Chris goes in, confirms his third kill, and gets to the 100,000 damage mark. At this point he's on fire on 15,000 HP, got a King George incredibly close on full HP mind you, so it's definitely a very dire situation. Now Chris does pop his damage control party and was very lucky in the timing there, because there was about a second before that torpedo hit, and if it was a second later then he could have potentially had a permanent flood, which could have been devastating. But speaking of devastating, look at the Sky Piggy getting incredibly close. Now the Ryujo is the one that killed me as well, which I wasn't very happy with at the time, so I was like, right, avenge me and just kill it. Shoot everything you've got, murder it before the kamikaze can get it. And that's exactly what he did, achieving the high caliber, doing a massive chunk of damage and getting 2 citadels, and then he has also got the front guns, but from the looks of it is aiming a little bit too low there, so we'll just see where these goes. And at the same time he does also have a repair party that comes off cooldown, so now he's able to recover a bit of HP for the next duel he's about to have with a King George. Now he fires his rear 6 guns as well, hopefully before the kamikaze's torpedoes come in, manages to get yet another citadel, 9 citadels, and confirms his 4th kill with 140,000 damage. Unfortunately, the carrier does manage to launch even more torpedo bombers, which isn't good because the Japanese torpedo bombers do a decent amount of damage, as you're about to see as they come in. And yeah, there we go, 7,000 HP, which is 7,000 HP he cannot afford to lose. But at the same time, the go-kart is, yeah, he is sailing pretty much entirely broadside here, 17,000 HP, gets another citadel, 10 citadels, and leaves the go-kart on 10,000 HP. Also, please note that Chris is on 4 kills, and if you saw on the thumbnail, Chris is also using the Special Commander Yamamoto, meaning just now his shells reloading, manages to just about lob over some shells over towards that go-kart, gets his 5th kill. That means Yamamoto has had his special ability unlocked, and now Chris is being repaired in the nick of time. The King George has just fired and he already went very low, and that torpedo should have killed him if it wasn't for Yamamoto in that second. And the King George is caught with his trousers down and takes another citadel down to 12,000 HP. He was full HP, and how on earth did that King George just not kill him? That was a full salvo of high explosive, mind you, on like less than 5,000 HP. That should have killed Chris, but it didn't. And even though that is the case, Chris does not worry in the slightest, because he then returns fire on this, for some reason, unangled King George and manages to confirm his 6th kill. Now, what looked like was probably going to be a very, very poor loss has been turned on its head, because Chris has managed to, he started lifting and he is now carrying the entire team on his back. Unfortunately, there is a mask going into the friendly cap, but if I re-divert your attention to the enemy cap, we have a friendly kamikaze, but is now in trouble because there is an enemy kamikaze coming in too. Now Chris thankfully is loading high explosive, which is very good, a lot of forward thinking there, so gets those shots and aims them quite nicely. Hopefully this is a kill, but unfortunately the kamikaze does start turning away, and in terms of HP differences, our friendly kamikaze also has a massive advantage. They did unfortunately get reset, but at this point, or at least, well, you know what, I'm going to pause the video here. So just take a quick look at the situation. So we've got a friendly carrier which is being pursued by a submarine and also has a destroyer in the cap. At the same time, there are two ships. There is the friendly kamikaze and Chris, which is going towards the cap, being pursued by an enemy kamikaze, which I assume is going to be easy to kill. In this situation, would you start turning back towards the carrier, or would instead you go straight towards the cap, try and kill the kamikaze, and then cap the point? So just think about that. So this is kind of what's going on in Chris's mind. So anyone going in the comments, then just keep this in mind. Now we'll resume this now. So Chris is keeping all of his guns just on point for as soon as that friendly kamikaze can spot the enemy kamikaze, and they are going incredibly slowly as I guess they're just not entirely sure where the enemy is. So Chris is now charging straight forward and hopefully will be able to get a finishing blow. Now, as you can see, they have just popped up, which is brilliant news, and unfortunately, you may have just spotted those torpedoes. Chris manages to get the shots out, and yep, he gets the kill, but at the same time, the enemy kamikaze manages to torpedo the friendly kamikaze, turning what could have been probably a very easy game with two people in the cap to now what looks like a certain loss. At this point, if I was the carrier, I think probably what I'd do is I'd start turning back into the mast, even though there's not really much chance of resetting, because as you can see in the chat, Aztec, if you were wondering, is the carrier. He said he's got no ammo, and I assume that means he's got no planes, and especially in a Ryujo, it's quite hard to hit a destroyer anyway, so at this point, this is looking very dire. Unfortunately, yeah, Chris is quite far away. I mean, he is starting to turn back in now, so he is starting to capture the point, but 3 minutes left compared to how far that mast has got. It's definitely not looking good in the slightest. Of course, he is still turning towards and now sailing towards the friendly cap, just in case he can get some shots over, but with how the score is going and how far the enemy has capped the point, it's not looking good. Now, the friendly carrier is trying to spot, and yep, from the looks of it, they are going in for a torpedo run onto the enemy mass, but yeah, you can see those going in, and it's very easy to dodge torpedoes, especially when they're quite slow, so there isn't really much to do. Now, he's going back into spot, and the mass is finally in range of Chris, but even though he has done so much for the team, the time runs out, and that is a heartbreaking defeat. That just goes to show you, no matter how hard you play, sometimes you really just can't win. Now, in terms of battle performance, at tier 7 mind you, 201,000 damage in just 51 hits. He managed to kill over half the enemy team, 7 kills here, 13 citadels, and just a plethora of various achievements here, including the division achievement, which means the division has to get 7 kills, but I died very early on, and to be fair, it may have even been me that was the reason that we lost that game, but Chris manages to get that achievement on his own. And if we move over to the team score, it's even more impressive still when you think Chris is on the losing team, meaning you get less XP, yet look at that. He's got more XP on the losing team at the top of the team than the first place of the winning team. That is how hard Chris played here, and it is just so sad that this was a loss. And then finally, we've got the detailed report just very quickly. You can see the bulk of the damage definitely came from that Nagato, as well as the King George, but overall, it was an impressive game. Now, with all that in mind, it does just show you how sometimes you really can't win, but it was a spectacular game to watch, and it was definitely spectacular to play as well. But with all that said, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one.